So me from DevOn and Elmer from Essent itself. So we will explain what we are doing there and what's the roadmap we are. What did we do and what's ahead of us, and what challenges did we face? So you go first.
Alright, so first a little introduction. I'm Elmer van Rooijen and I'm a front-end application developer at Essent. I started working at Essent for almost a year now, and before that I was a part of a traineeship guided by Young Capital, as you may know. Well, Pieter of course, and he is our consultant at Essent for our CI/CD process.
Yes.
Right. So first a little introduction about Essent. Essent is a little company that is derived from energy, which in then is derived from RWE. And RWE is a German electricity company, and energy is a subsidiary company that is mainly focused on the renewable energies. And RWE itself is operating mostly in Europe, and Essent is part of energy. Then first, to put things a little bit in perspective, we have created a timeline. So first our warm-up phase, and the warm-up phase is everything we did about CI/CD to get things going up till September 2017. And then after that the assessment is, our guys at DevOn did the assessment to see where are we at that point in time on implementing CI/CD in our company. And then forming the CI/CD team, the initiative that started in December of last year. And then the CI/CD phase 1, 2, and 3, that can be more or less 2018 Q1 and Q2 and Q3. And our ambition is to return back at another meetup to do a report out on what we have achieved so far in this timeline. So first up, the warm-up phase, and the warm-up phase, well, this picture roughly illustrates what we are talking about. Is at the top there's our developers, and in the bottom there's our management. Well, as developers we really saw the need for a decent CI/CD structure, because management was pushing us to deliver more and more features and deliver more value even faster than maybe possible. And we saw the need for, we need a decent CI/CD and pipeline to do these kinds of things. But we had no budget, no time, no priority, because features were more important than having a decent CI/CD pipeline. So in a point of time, the awareness was created to the business to say, from the developer's perspective, to say, we really need this because you're not able to deliver your portfolio the way you wanted to. So our ambition and vision of the company changed, and so a CI/CD initiative was started. And this is all about a duration of 1 year. So everything in the warm-up phase we did is 1 year. Then the assessment, so this is what DevOn did for us, and we needed this assessment because we wanted to know from where are we in case of implementing CI/CD in our company. What's in place, what do we need? We need a decent roadmap to see where, for looking forward, what do we need to do? So this is the vision Essent has created, and Essent wants to be a high IT performer and release frequently to production. So also a motto is, let's see, it's right there. Okay, fail fast and deploy frequently, because deploy frequently will keep your risk shorter and to a minimum.
And right now I think they're somewhere between the low and the medium, depending on which component or which department in the company.
Yeah.
But the ambition is to go to the left more and more.
More and more, yes. So as I said, we want to deploy more frequently, but also we have different deployment cycles. We have a lot of different teams working on different projects and have dependencies on each other. And to be able to deploy frequently and even support multiple speeds. So let's say right now we are delivering to production every 3 weeks, but other teams maybe want to deploy frequently, let's say once a day, and right now our pipeline doesn't support that to the fullest, so that's why we need an improvement on that as well.
Maybe it's good to illustrate a little bit how the architecture, or how you want to call it, is right now. Because the current landscape is at the bottom, they have a big monolithical SAP system. You're all familiar with that, I guess. On top of that, there's a Tibco layer doing a lot of stuff. And then they're working on API gateways right now to support at least more frequent delivery of the front end, so web and also mobile apps.
Yes.
So basically this is the landscape we are dealing with right now, and what we are aiming at is that the logic that's in here is reduced, so especially in SAP layer there's quite some intelligence and business logic here. But we want to make it a bit more dumb, so pure for database and not too much more. So the frequency of changes on the SAP layer will be reduced, so we can push it up a bit, and then basically also the API gateway to get the data up, so we can deploy these APIs more frequent, and also the web and the mobile apps on a higher frequency, and the Tibco and the SAP layer on a lower speed. So that's why also the multi-speed approach. I believe Gartner has presented it 1 or 2 years back already. Yeah.
So to get things going, we have formed a CI/CD initiative, and as Pieter already drawn in the picture, we have we have a large stack of very different types of technologies. So multiple people from these technologies are within the team, so we have a representative of each technology. So all the needs and wishes for a decent pipeline are in there. And let's see. So what we first did as part of the CI/CD initiative is to investigate GitLab. That's the first thing we did, and also looked into test automation. Right now our level of test automation, there's practically no test automation, and we want to improve that to reach a certain maturity level, so we can ensure that we can deploy to production as many as we want to. And also dashboarding is part of the first things we did in the initiative. So see which deployments are going well, or where something is broken in your pipeline, and see which versions are deployed, to make it a little bit more transparent to also maintenance, but also developers themselves.
One question?
Yes.
With test automation, you only mean the front-end tests, or also unit tests?
Also the API gateway, and also the Tibco and SAP. So on the whole stack. Yes.
Right now there are end-to-end tests, and they are sort of automated, but they still need manual prepared test cases and make them fit to go, and also they are triggered by hand. So part of this is also making this part of the pipelines and automate also the execution of these tests. We also took this picture because you saw in the first slide of Elmer that Essent is part of a larger group, so the RWE and Energy, and there's also a need for standardization within this group. So we also work together with the enterprise architect to see, okay, what's happening in Germany and what's happening in other countries. And for example, GitLab, can we use GitLab in the whole group? And so to reduce the amount of tools and licenses and etc. And we want to give them some freedom, but also try to work towards some standardization.
So are you sort of the front runners then? As in, do they also already have some initiatives going on in Germany, for example, or?
Not that
Be
I'm
the
aware
front
of, but at least we want to be the front runner. So yeah, this is an opportunity to do that.
Yeah,
So,
it's great.
I spoke to the enterprise architect, and Essent is with this initiative, especially they are front runners. There are some initiatives in Germany as well, but they're just starting. So basically the warm-up phase we had
Yeah, they're
in the
starting.
past
up.
year, 2 years maybe already. That depends on who you ask. But in Germany it's starting right now.
So as I said, we executed a little POC using GitLab, and we first saw this at the meetup at Bolton.com, and they explained us their investigations in certain CI/CD principles, and GitLab was one of the approaches they decided, but just blindly take over and it's not the way to go. So we investigated more tooling. So Jira, Wiki, and Bitbucket, SVN, and Jenkins are the tools we are using now, and also some projects are using the Team Foundation server that are more Windows-based requirements. And we concluded that GitLab provides us more or less the functionalities we need. But we have decided that GitLab will provide us in the most part for our CI part and not our deployment part. And we are investigating a tool that can provide us with that. So GitLab will only be CI.
Yeah, they are looking for AWS, but
Yeah.
there are also parts that use Azure, so it's the question if it can be combined. And so the CI/CD team, so we are primarily focusing on GitLab right now. But for example, some BI teams and also some other areas within the company, but also in Germany, are using TFS or the VSTS part, so the cloud variant. I think in the end we will use both streams as a support. But so for the open source and the .NET part. Yeah.
SVN is used basically, as I know it, it has basically the same functionality as GitLab.
Yes, it's
It's something which existed before?
Yeah, it's something that existed before and is still being used right now, and we're currently in the phase of transitioning that to Git, or at least Bitbucket, and later on transitioning to Git.
Okay.
And that's mainly the Tibco layer and the API gateway layer, because SAP is more configuration, so that's pretty hard to maintain in the Git repo. But API gateway and Tibco are using SVN right now.
Yeah, API is already transferred,
Yeah.
and Tibco is the next step.
Our current situation on how our pipeline looks now. So as I said, we are using SVN. Oh, that's a handy tool for that. Okay, so we're using SVN for that. We have some different separated Bitbucket instances, and that's basically for sensitive data. So the API gateway that we don't want to expose to the public is separated in a separate Bitbucket instance. Then we have a separate Jenkins test environment. So these are producing all the artifacts that later need to be stored to acceptance and production environments. But that is done on a separate Jenkins instance as well, so those two are completely separated. And maintenance is now doing most of our deployment by a custom-made dashboard. So that dashboard is capable of reading out our artifact storage that's in AWS S3 bucket, and they can select artifact and say this has to go to acceptance production. This is how we do deployments right now. And for our Jenkins instances, we have 4 slaves running, and those are always up, and those are really confined to what they can do. So if you have more requirements, say you want to run Selenium test, this is pretty hard to maintain, and this is also the reason why you want to move more to GitLab and using Docker for this. So you are more flexible in how your pipeline is going to look like, instead of just using these static slaves, as I call them.
Do you see some best practices being violated here? I'm curious.
Yeah.
Well, the Jenkins test and Jenkins Akpo
Yes.
labels are just saying, hey, this environment, right?
No, those are two separate Jenkins, separate instances of Jenkins, so they don't share anything amongst them.
Yeah, okay, but you have Jenkins master below the Jenkins test.
Yeah, true. Yes, and they also have. Yes, this is a Jenkins master, so yeah, this is practically the same. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the same. Yeah, and this is just to illustrate how the slaves are connected to that Jenkins instance. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they are always talking via a dashboard and can pull things out of the S3 bucket. Yeah. So that's how deployments are done right now.
How is the organization, or how is everything organized? As in, do you have sort of a separate development department and operations department?
Yeah, we have an operations department. So
Yeah,
saying DevOps is not really how we do things.
Yeah, so
right
I think
now.
that's also reflected
Yeah,
basically in
definitely.
this architecture. Yeah.
Yeah,
Basically
we need
the
to
picture.
glue something
Yeah.
together as well.
Yeah.
So, one of the most important repositories is your artifact storage, and
Yeah.
that's in the cloud.
Yeah, that's,
Your-
that's also an S3 bucket. Yes,
that you don't see that as a risk.
could be. What is your recommendation?
Well, I don't know. It's my question.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all kind of stuff you have in separate instances. It's valuable and risky. But I suppose your artifact storage is also in the same category, and you put that on AES.
Yeah, well, that's the current setup, of course, but yeah, I don't see that much security issues in the cloud environment as long as you set it up right, of course, with the right permissions, etc. So yeah, that doesn't have to be an issue.
So
What's
It's more from a availability point of view, perhaps a little bit scary. I think it was last year that S3 went down for something like a day or so.
Within one zone.
Yeah.
Only
One
one
zone.
zone.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it was America, I think,
Yeah.
or yeah.
so but with S3, well, like with basically anything in the cloud, you can just put it in different zones.
yeah, you
then
can
it's-
sync them and
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
I think the cloud storage of anything in the cloud is better secured and certified than any data center you can set up yourself.
yeah.
It's quicker to set up as well.
Yeah.
The question is, do you want to spend your own money on figuring out how to do it, or do you just want to buy it?
Well, or on the maintenance.
Yeah, on maintenance, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, true.
Talking about outages, I had just about 2 weeks with a complete destroyed Nexus server. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, and
I prefer to set it up in the cloud,
yeah.
so that you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, one thing we looked into is setting up Jenkins as a service, so providing each team with its own Jenkins master and their own slaves to enable them to reach the requirements they need from a pipeline. But we concluded that it's pretty hard for maintenance to keep all those Jenkins instances in line, or at least to provide them with the needed security updates or see where the status of that is. It's pretty hard to maintain for maintenance to
That only
have
works.
every
if-
developers have their own Jenkins master.
That only works if you have your whole Jenkins in containers.
Yeah, true.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's why you also want to move to GitLab, just to have one master. And, yeah. So going to that is our desired situation.
Elmer,
Yes.
the previous slide in the right lower corner, there's storm runner.
Yes.
What's that?
That's a performance test service that's being used in our data centers.
You have the load runner from HP, and storm runner is basically the cloud variant on that.
Okay.
So they provide a cloud load solution.
Denial of service as a service.
Yeah, well, it scales better. Yeah, that's true. That's also the advantage that they can use. They can easier use multiple IP addresses. So to prevent a DDoS-like attack, because if you do a load test from one IP address, you quickly get a block as a potential DDoS attack.
So then we move on to our side situation, and as I said, we want to use GitLab for that, and also use Docker to support that GitLab. So we don't are bounded to static slaves, but just say use Docker for this and provide the images you need to run your pipeline with. And that's our EC2 instances provided by Amazon. So if they're needed, they are powered on, and if they're not needed, then we can just break them down.
Sonar Cube or
Sonar, yes. So that's code quality checks. Yeah. And also, artifact storage is a good one. So yeah, are we still using the S3 buckets, or at least in a different way we are doing now? That's something we have to investigate. But GitLab supports to use our artifact storage on an external location, so not do it on the same instance. That's supported. So.
Yeah, you were also using JFrog Artifactory, right?
Yeah, we're also using JFrog, so yeah, that's also an option to push our artifacts to. Yeah, so we have multiple opportunities or ways to do this.
And do you want to run this sort of on-premise or at least managed by yourself, or do you want to use the cloud
the
version?
thing we have now is self-hosted. So yeah, it's a self-hosted version of GitLab, and we're currently looking into also the high availability part, but we're not really sure if we need it.
It's self-hosted in the cloud.
Yeah.
Because it's an
Yeah.
an AWS image, but it's maintained by Essent itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what's
we'll-
missing here, I guess, is the Docker image host.
Yeah. True.
We also like to create a Docker image host where we can store our own setup images.
Docker
As a
registry.
private
Yeah, so the
repository.
registry, yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah, registry. Yeah.
Yeah.
That can also be JFrog, so
Yeah.
they also have a registry for that. So
Yeah.
yes, and yeah, we still have. So GitLab will now be directly connected to the S3 buckets and API gateway, but we want to use separate Docker containers for that as well. So that Docker container is authenticated to do those actions. So yeah, the authentication is handled within the Docker container and not within GitLab.
Yeah.
And it doesn't say anything in this picture, but do you also work with things like load balancers and how do you deploy? As in, for example, web part, is it zero downtime?
Right now it isn't, but we are, Essent has the ambition to be a high IT performer, so also less downtime. So yeah, it's certainly the case that they want to go to zero downtime deployments.
Yeah.
Right now that's not in here, but they also are have initiatives to recreate the front-end environment, so Essent.nl, energiedirect.nl, and they're setting this up in Sitecore. So they want zero downtime Sitecore deployments in the end.
Okay.
And they'll probably also use GitLab for the CI part, and I believe they use Octopus Deploy probably for the deployment, because there are a lot of support already there for Sitecore.
Yep.
Yeah, so the CD part is not in this picture, but we need to do that. So
Yeah.
but GitLab is not going to do that because it's not really that flexible.
That can orchestrate it. But,
Yeah.
Maybe in the future.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll come up, but I'm missing the security part in this. Do you guys sign your own artifacts and Docker images then? Or how do you verify that everything, because you cross different platforms before entering your own data center?
Yep.
How do you manage that? Or are you managing it?
It's not in place right now, and I think that's a good thing to look into. If we're certainly using Docker containers as like deployables, is something we want to do in the future. So I think that's indeed a thing to look into. Yeah.
We don't have that contact, but there is one person in the team already talking with security guy on also the setup, and also how do you reach this environment, because Essent is quite some external developers using a void device, so how do they interact with the GitLab environment, etc. So yeah, it's on the radar, but it's not clear exactly yet how we're going to deal with it.
Everything clear so far? Yes. Yeah.
Well, of course, we would like to make sure that we know what we are doing, and also is the change and the setup we create is improving the speed to delivery, the return on investment, etc. So monitoring is quite important on that case, in that part. So right now we are investigating some monitoring tools more for the teams right now. So they have a dashboard with insights indicating what is the quality of our system, is it running, is the build successful, test coverage, etc. And we're looking in OnTrack. That's a universal dashboard that can connect with a lot of different external tools, and also Hygia. That's some Greek goddess, I believe. But also a tool with can connect to different environments. Both are basically available as default Docker containers. So we are setting this up and connecting to all different environments. And frankly, I thought, well, piece of cake, install Docker, run these containers, and we have a go. But there's something like a proxy within Essent, and that really bugs me for, I guess, 2 months already. So yeah, we are figuring out how to set this up. It's also because of the time, because I can not spend my entire day on this. So yeah, well, I need some focus and some guy that will fix it. In the end, it also came out that OnTrack uses a plugin to connect to a different solution. So they have a plugin for Jenkins and a plugin for GitLab and etc. And one of these plugins did not use the proxy settings that were used in the OnTrack environment itself. So basically, they didn't just add it to the API call. So no, we fired a defect within OnTrack, and hopefully it will be fixed in January, so we can move on. So you see that that is important, at least for me, and I think for Essent as well, to have the baseline. Okay, where are we right now, and are we improving? And so that's why we want this monitoring, also transparency in what are we doing and are we moving forward. I'm quite curious, do you in your own companies, or for example bol.com, so do you have monitoring tools in place for teams but also for your applications? What are you using?
Several.
Yeah, I've seen several companies, and I never have a really good dashboard that shows me what I need, or I have to search it in 5 different places, so I have several dashboards.
Yeah, but there are different things. Of course, you have the pipeline, and mostly we use Jenkins to make that visible and some reporting around it. But if you talk about monitoring the system itself, especially in a Docker environment, and you talk about using Prometheus and Grafana, and then make whatever you want.
Yeah.
But it really depends on the team what they want to see.
Yeah.
We mostly push stuff like a Grafana, and then the developers can create the dashboard whatever they need. And we're currently working on a developer dashboard where they combine more insights into more than you can do in Grafana. Because we also have different. So for example, we have we call it sysdate. It's a tool that looks at the environments and checks the versions that are running in production or in the different environments. And then, so that's one tool, and we have Grafana, we have, like you said, we have multiple tools. In the end, we have multiple tools, and the developer dashboard should bring that together into one dashboard.
Yeah, that's basically also what I'm searching for. How can we combine more in one overview?
You were talking about OnTrack?
OnTrack.
OnTrack. Okay.
Guys,
where can I Google that?
If you combine it OnTrack and GitHub, then you can really find it quickly, and else you get a lot of different kind of solutions. That's not the right one.
Okay.
We're actually combining Prometheus and Grafana with open tracing, specifically Jaeger, which is an Uber implementation of open tracing. And we add the tracing ID. We're in the process of adding the tracing ID at the moment. It hits our API gateway. That's where all traces start mostly for external traffic. We add that trace ID to the HTTP call metric that we export to Prometheus. So if we see a spike, we can actually just hover our mouse over it. We see a tracing ID. We can check in Jaeger if it actually was registered, because it's sample based, so you don't always know if it happened. But if there's an error, it will definitely get recorded. So you'll see what happened all throughout your system, depending on if they're instrumented or not, which is really awesome to see it work.
Okay. From which tool was that?
Jaeger with open tracing.
I hear a nice next session, Pieter.
You want to do it then?
Okay, so the other one is Hygia. So this I can just write it down. That's easier because it's terrible to write down. So this one. Also, if you combine Hygia with GitHub, then you can find it very quickly.
First I, is that present?
Sorry? Yeah, it's IEIA.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why I write it down. It's, you cannot make it up when you hear it. Okay. So what are the challenges we faced so far? Well, I think if you look at the Warmup period, it's also politics. So managing the managers that they understand there's a need for automation, for continuous delivery, etc. to fill in the demand of the business. So mainly if you look at Essent IT, they didn't have that good reputation because they weren't quick enough to facilitate business apparently. So that awareness is created. We have budget now for this year, and that's also why we are able to create this roadmap in these 3 phases. So we got the budget, we got the business priority right now, and also the business itself understands. Okay, we need to invest in the IT department so they can set this up and create this environment. And I think also a pretty important part of the delay, let's say it that way, is that they had a Jenkins environment, but nobody was responsible. So some people left and nobody knew how it was set up. There was a SonarQube environment, and while we were doing the assessment, we did some interviews too, and one of the questions was, okay, do you have static code analysis? Yeah, we have something, it's SonarQube, but yeah, it's I think it's not running for over 2 weeks right now. Okay, and who needs to fix it? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so that's also something in the culture and the mindset of the people, that they don't feel the responsibility and also don't take the action to fix it. So that's also something we are trying to address to create more ownership and create more sense of urgency within the development community to fix these sort of things. So one of the items on the agenda right now is also, okay, who's going to be responsible for GitLab? So it won't be the same story we have right now. Well, and I think what I already mentioned, the biggest challenge also is the corporate network and the proxy environment. That's causing some extra configuration challenges we need to overtake. I'm pretty sure that some people here work in corporate environments with difficult proxies, but how is this for you? Is this often an issue or the same?
Is the proxy difficult or the network people?
That's a good question.
Yeah, well, in the end, the people who set up the proxy probably they're.
Yeah. So are they helping out?
They are thinking along, but yeah, it's more that you.
But aren't they allowed to? Do they have a strict policy how they have to configure the proxy? That they have to stay within certain bounds?
Well, sometimes the policies are the issues, not the people.
Yeah.
The people are very willing to help.
Yeah, so and it's not.
Slapped on the fingers,
it's not sometimes not even the policy, but for example, so we had a virtual machine in AWS. Within this, there's a Docker host inside. On this, there are Docker containers running. So first, you have to figure out, okay, where do I need to configure all these proxies to at least get out of my Docker image, and well, that was a challenge. And then also the add-in of the application within the Docker container did not support the proxy. So it's a combination. So it's never one thing, I guess. But,
okay, so you have basically a code problem that the proxy connections weren't supported.
yeah, in the end, in on track at least, that was one of the issues. But
Okay.
also we had quite some time figuring out how did we all, what was needed to configure the proxy in all these steps, in the Docker host, in the Docker containers itself, and so we tried it in different ways and in different places, and searching for Google, of course, and you can also find 5 different solutions there.
To me, it sounds a little bit complex. I mean, why not take out the whole proxy altogether?
Yeah, so that was
That
also
would be
why
nice.
I said that's
Well, for one thing, getting images and other stuff, you can talk to the network guys and explain what difficulties you are running into. It is costing a lot of time.
Yeah, yeah.
And effort, and just say, okay, just give me something special there that has the rights to go out.
Then
Yeah,
we
like
get
that.
usually in a
Yeah.
policy discussion. Because
Yeah, but in
then
the end,
Yeah.
we do need to connect to the Bitbucket and the Jenkins environment and the GitLab environment to create the reports we need. So they're still behind the proxy. So that's why we also need that proxy to work.
You
make
could
it
also use a VPN tunnel or something
Sure.
to
Yeah.
if the,
Yeah,
proxy-
well, yeah.
if the network allows it to use VPNs. So it's
Yeah.
just your security appetite and the policy where the people who have to implement security have to conform to, that determines your freedoms.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they have to understand how difficult it is.
Oh, they do.
To-
Usually the operations guys, they know that they are a pain in the ass. But it's more that somewhere in an ivory tower there is someone who says, well, I've got a line, a GDPR, we have to be compliant with this, we have to be compliant with that. And we say, oh, close it, close it, close it.
Bottom line, it's a business issue where
Yeah, sure.
you're spending so many hours on one thing and so many hours on
Oh yeah,
the other.
Yeah.
but it's
And
a
keeping a
Yeah.
proxy in between, you never know what the next program is that doesn't respond to the setting security.
But good tip. Let's connect with our operations better. That is also a challenge, of course, within a sense. So.
But you were talking about forming a team, the initiative team.
Yeah.
Operations
So
is
if you
part of it.
could get some network guy or girl into that team, perhaps that would help.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
also-
so there are people from operations in this team, and they are cooperating, of course. But we have to make this more clear that the proxy really is an issue, and
And also
see
take
if
run
they
of
can help.
security in your team.
Yeah.
That they can say, well, this is allowed or not, and
They have very short lines and they know what you're doing and they understand what you need, so they can be a little bit more flexible in their
Yeah, well, there was one security guy, but he left the company, so there's a new one now, and we are connecting him with us, but he has a lot of stuff to do. So
One security guy for Essent.
yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
that's also a challenge. Yeah. Okay. So now comes the real challenge. Now we need to do it, of course, and so we made the choice for GitLab. We are starting up, so we started now creating the foundation, the baseline of the infrastructure, GitLab, setting up GitLab, etc. So we can really use it. We also already selected a team, a project where we go to cooperate. So set up an environment and the pipeline for them, at least together with them, so not for them, but together with them, to see, okay, what are the needs, how can we make this a solution for multiple projects, and we also took on the challenge because this team is creating a new website, but also they are hitting this entire stack. So we want to go through this stack once. So we basically hit all the procedures and barriers already in this first phase. So the road is paved for the projects that come afterwards. That's basically the challenge we are going for right now.
And the pipeline should deliver all 4 levels you have designed.
Yeah. And
You're
especially
planning to
for
do all
the
of the
lowest of the SAP is pretty hard because the deployment of SAP is done by operations department in Germany. and they're pretty rigid. So.
But you're planning to do one pipeline that does all that?
No. There probably will be multiple pipeline. I think a pipeline for each product. But still, we need to work together with operations. Okay, how are we gonna build, deploy this, and maybe also look at how are they connected to each other. So how can we make sure that one layer does not go before the other layer or something like that. So that real process challenge is basically the first hurdle we need to take. Yeah. Okay. Besides that, we also spoke about test automation. So we are working on the CI/CD pipelines, of course, but also test automation is an important part in this. We have some people working on CI/CD pipeline, and also people working on automation. Right now, the initiative started because there were some initiatives already in several teams on the line of behavior-driven development. So there were some frameworks created by themselves, some already used. At least they now got together and agreed on one standard framework in the market. Do you know the name?
Serenity.
Serenity, yeah. So Serenity right now is used in combination with Cucumber and Selenium, I believe, to create the BDD tests. And they're also collaborating with the same project we choose for the CI/CD pipeline to also create tests in that sense. And also work together with the team to make it a normal procedure to create these BDD scenarios first and then build, etc. So to really also change this mindset of the whole team how to approach this.
How is that going? Because are the testers part of the teams right now?
Yes.
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
But you see that right now there's a quite large group of testers, but there's a group of 6 to 8 test automation engineers, or how do you want to call it. And so that also needs to change a bit so that testers and also developers more collaborate together to create these automated tests.
And what level are they creating the tests? Are they functional tests, or because most likely the developers will make the unit tests?
Yeah, so
they
the unit tests
are
they should, yeah, that's some challenge as well, but so the BDD tests are more a functional test, acceptance test. And you see that the end-to-end tests are also something that are created from the past because they had this end-to-end test and it took a lot of time, so that's why they automated it. So it is the speed is increased, but it can be really much better because as we still need to search for test cases in the environment, and then they put it in an Excel sheet, and that's input for the test run itself. And that step they're creating an automation process for this as well, so that the test will find the proper test case and then run the test.
Do you have difficulties with test data in your automation?
Yeah, basically that is the issue. So finding the proper test case, finding a person with a certain energy nota or end date, etc. That's really the challenge. Okay. And besides that, so they want to set this up, and then also the monitoring and transparency comes back. So being transparent in these test results, test cases, that is all shown for the team itself, but also for the people around it. They also have a UAT department, user acceptance test environment or department, that really is a quality gauge right now before you go to production. And so collaborating more with this department, also setting up this BDD test together with them, so they have the confidence and the trust that if everything goes well, it's okay to go to production without them knowing or being informed, etc. And they can just view the dashboard and see, okay, it's okay.
So you want to cut out the whole UAT?
Yeah, so we don't want to fire them, but we want to make sure that the quality gate is
moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So more part of the process. Yeah. Okay. Well, next step. The ambition is that we, in the first step, we created a lot and we made it happen for this first team. And then we want to teach. So we create a workshop and get other teams involved. Teach them how this works and basically let them do the migration themselves from Jenkins to GitLab. So they already have the experience, a larger group, so they can also help each other out. So share knowledge pretty quickly and get them up to speed in this new environment. Same goes for the test automation. Also making sure that more people get this going. Also improve the reporting, make this more advanced and better for insights within the company. And also looking for what KPIs do we need. More on that later. And so basically also gather the feedback of this first phase and see, okay, what can we improve on this part and grow. And well, in phase 3 it's cleanup time. So like you seen in the slides from Elmer, we have a lot of different tools, Jenkins, SVN, Bitbucket, Jira, but I think Jira will stay. But the other 3 basically can be cleaned up when we have GitLab. GitLab also supports work item management like Jira does, but I think that's maybe a bit too soon to already clean this up. But so we don't want to add another tool in the whole stack, but eventually we want to reduce the amount of tools. So that's why we do want to make sure everything is cleaned up in the end as well.
It's a difficult step.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most difficult step.
Yeah, so we basically want to be ambitious and just put an end date on it, so there's a drive to move. And yeah, I'm afraid that we don't make this date, but at least when we announce this, okay, end of Q3 we are going to clean this up, and then the drive is more okay guys, we need to move to GitLab.
What worked for us was we also set the end date, and we say if you're not agreeing with it and you want it, then just take it over.
Yeah, then you
they're never going to take it over. So.
yeah, that's a good one. Then it's part of the project budget.
Yeah, if it's important enough for them to keep, then we'll take it over. But it's never important enough, so
yeah.
Turn it off.
Mental note. It's recorded, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so that's a really important part. I think that we need to clean it up, because else we just have added another tool and in the end we did not achieve anything.
Question: I hear a lot about the pipeline, but you're using Docker. You're using containers for the.
Right now they're
itself,
not. Basically, they're using containers for hosting the pipeline tools, so GitLab and that sort of environments. And they are looking into solutions that they also want to deploy the application itself using Docker containers. But it's not sure that we're gonna already incorporate this in the.
But I'm also wondering about the tests that you're running. The builds, whether you can do those in containers as well, as well as running the tests.
Yeah. So GitLab does support the environments in containers. So, but yeah, I'm not sure yet how we're going to do this. I hope that I can inform you on that part in was it 6 to 3 months, after to 9 months. Yeah. Okay. And then phase 3 also for testing is making sure the end-to-end tests are better. They already have them, but so make sure that the BDD tests are matured, that the mindset of the teams is grown, and they're really a part of this whole pipeline. So this whole automation process is really going on. And then beside the end-to-end test, they also want to have focus on the non-functional tests. So like performance testing, and maybe also security testing. How can they take this more forward and make it part of the process? I've been in multiple corporations where they use 45 scans, so then you have at least some security scans. It's not complete, but you at least have more than nothing. Yeah, it's a good start. So I'm not sure if you're gonna really use it at Essent because it's quite expensive as well. But we'll see if there are other solutions. I don't know if you know other alternatives.
I think your monitoring is your performance monitor as well, your performance tester.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, depending on the code base, you have default benchmarking built in, like or very heavy algorithms that need to run. That's something you can benchmark with. Mostly, it's just if you deploy and you see your request rate go down.
Yeah.
And the delay go up, that's your performance test, like something went wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's nothing better than production data.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But it would be nice if we know it up front, of course, but yeah. But good monitoring is essential, I guess, yeah.
And your pipeline also supports rollbacks or redeploys of the previous version?
Yeah, well, and on one hand, we are looking into that, but on the other hand, if you have small components where you can really quickly make a change, then you can also use a more roll-forward approach, and so fix forward. But yeah, both options are still on the map. Yeah, we're storing the artifacts in Artifactory, so we should be able to say, okay, restore this version.
Changes on the database levels, changes in schemas. Is
Yeah.
also part of the pipeline?
Well, that's basically because they have this set up that's part of the SAP layer, because that's really the data storage. There are some applications that have their own database, so in that case, there we have to make this part of the team's mindset that they at least create database changes that are how do you say it, that they don't break the previous version. So maybe that they have to make an additional change later to clean things up when the successful deployment is there. Yeah.
So, as an addition, in November we had someone talking about Flyway database migrations.
Yeah.
So that explains. In his talk, he talked about migrating databases. And in October, I think it was October, we had OWASP checks. So for security checking during the build. Maybe that's one to check out.
Yeah. Flyway, I used it at a different customer, so that's kind of nice. It's simple, it's open source, and it works. So, but it's a bit too simple for SAP.
Yeah, starting for him.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
For the security bit, you can also look at the Z-attack proxy, ZAP. The problem usually is though not finding a tool, but actually also finding a process where you can actually analyze the results of the tool.
Yeah. Yeah, we also used Fortify in that same company, but it took 20 minutes to do the code scan. So it's not really helping in a CI process where you want fast feedback. So we also took it out of the CI build and just put it in the nightly build to at least have a daily feedback cycle. Yeah. Okay. Well, what are the challenges we expect? Still some political challenge, mainly on the process, because due to some issues from the past, all these quality gates are in place. If we don't manage to change this process within the company, then we can automate a lot, but then still we have all these quality gates, and then the wait time basically isn't reduced, and well, there's still a lot of waste in there. So besides the technology, I think changing the process is one of the most important steps we need to accomplish. And well, I'd like to tell you if that's a success or not in a half year. The diverse stack is also a pretty challenge. Okay, how do we manage all these different type of environments and tools? Because they're pretty large or small and dependent on each other, so it's also a challenge. Because on one hand we want to give teams a sort of an end-to-end responsibility so they can build and run these applications. But if they have too much dependencies and need to change SAP, for example, then that's quite a challenge already. I think one of the other challenges is the external employees. So they need to reach the Git environment in GitLab through a VPN or through some way at least that's still secure but doable from their own device. So shouldn't be that big of a challenge, but we need to tackle it at least. Okay, well, we do have one question for you, and so we like to ask you to pick your phones and go to this live.voxvote.com and use this pin, and then I will make sure that this live. So if you go in to this site and use this pin code, you already have the first question awaiting you. And we didn't add other, I see, but maybe that was one additional.
Just waiting for a new question.
Yeah.
Yeah? Oh, I have to press start maybe.
Sounds reasonable.
That's not automatic.
Question 1 is on air. At least he says here.
Yeah,
Is that
it
true?
does.
Okay.
What's KPI?
Key performance indicator. So what's how can you see this, what number do you track to see progress?
So me personally, or
From
the company that I work for?
The company that you work for.
Check everything.
In the CI/CD context.
Where are the watermelons?
Yeah. Sorry, they're not part of the question. I would expect some progress here, but
How do you measure that?
yeah. There's a dashboard here, but it's not doing that much.
It's not really transparent.
We were waiting for your question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then we just so everybody answered the first question.
Yeah.
Then you should have the second question.
Still waiting.
Perhaps hit the start button.
Oh.
So you have a button for next question, and then you still have to push start. It's not really intuitive. But okay, it's there.
It's a yes or no question. Are you sure about this?
Mwah. That's also an answer.
Yeah.
Well, there's an additional question. There should be a sort of a word cloud here. But,
Not very fast at least.
Unless everybody says no results.
Yeah, that's
It's a small cloud.
well, then I'm pretty curious what it does if I go in this direction. That's what I like. So a number of defects is pretty popular, I see. Business value, deployment frequency, and lead time to market.
funny that return on investment is so low.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kind of like the most important one.
And TCO as well.
Which
Yeah.
also one which is most difficult to measure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's maybe
Or to
why.
keep track of when you do some clouds.
I do find this one interesting because if you look at an agile team approach, the number of defects, at least that are
Cannot measure it.
noted down, are pretty low.
Yeah.
And so there's more the defects from production or so that maybe those are registered, but yeah, interesting to see. Okay, thank you. Well, and then of course the other question was quite interesting. So
But about the number of defects,
yeah,
it is what the most, or at least at our company in the beginning, the most people were, they kept a list of how many incidents there were. And if the amount of incidents are decreasing each year, it's fine. So
yeah, and in that sense, for as a team, it's a good measure maybe. But it really, I think it really depends on how are you, how do you say it, afgerekend.
yeah.
How is management really looking at this defect list, or is it more a team effort in improving the quality of the product they deliver?
Well, the number of defects, it gives you a good indication if it gives you a good feeling of trust to the teams. So in the beginning, when we started with CI and we gave the deployment more to the developers, the managers were really looking at how many defects, how long did it take to fix the incidents. And by seeing the amount of incidents drop, the management got the confidence that they could just give it all to the users.
Okay.
So
that's interesting.
and most developers don't care much about the business value.
No.
Right?
No, that's true. At least they don't have a feeling, unless business can really motivate this business value.
Yeah,
Of the
unless you
business
make a
itself.
pride of your product,
They
right?
should though.
Yeah.
They should though, that's true. Yeah. Okay, so thank you very much.